Maul was a spectacular victory for Lucasfilm Animation. From the literal painted backgrounds to the gorgeous animation with its paint stroke style, to the high-octane action, to the fantastic narrative grounded in a cast of well-fleshed-out characters. G'day, I'm RJ, welcome to the Nerdy Dad channel. Let's talk about Maul Shadow Lord, because my god, that show was awesome. Lucasfilm Animation rarely misses for me. From the Clone Wars, especially the later seasons, through Rebels, the Bad Batch, and Maul is right up there with the best of them. It might even be the best Lucasfilm Animation series yet. Among the wins for the show is that it hit notes that were promised to us in the live-action shows, but they never quite got there. Maul gave us a story about the criminal underworld, like the Book of Fett promised to do, and it told the story of a fall to the dark side that left the Acolyte in its dust. It's not that I hated those live-action shows. I liked the Book of Boba Fett, I liked the Acolyte, but in my opinion, Maul did it far better. At the very least, it did it far more to my taste. Now, there's a fair criticism that Maul is a very well-worn character, and there's been a lot of stories set in the early Empire. But this show was so well executed, and the extended cast of interesting and fully formed characters completely changed the dynamic of the show. So, let's flesh out this review by talking about this wonderful cast of characters, starting with the droids. Spybot was a wonderful, if short, addition to the Star Wars canon. Extraordinarily competent for a Star Wars villain. In fact, all of Maul's crew were. I absolutely loved this giant kitty cat of a droid's sass and his attitude in general. I audibly gasped when they killed him off. I genuinely did not see that coming. Two Boots was so by the books that he brought in the Empire. You know, that build up to the Empire and what it's going to mean for Janix was so well executed. Two Boots eventually comes around, but he never quite loses that by the book attitude, even as he joins the criminal underworld. Rook Kast was loyal to the end. Unlike some of the more mercenary Mandalorians in the group, it was an off-screen death. But that was Vader, so she is actually dead, right? Like Rook, the Knight brothers, Icarus and Scorn, were loyal to the end. You don't find out much about them, but they both had their time to shine, especially at their ends. Icarus' ending was an appropriately brutal send-off for that loyal henchman. Vario was great as the comic relief, but you also can't underestimate the skills of that slippery character who was one of the very few to survive the show. His introduction against Nicodemus was particularly satisfying. Master Iko Diodaki lasted a lot longer than I thought he would. I thought his death would be pivotal to Devon's turn, which it was, but they waited till right at the end to kill him. And for it to be Vader to do it, his death felt both earned and inevitable. Brandon Lawson was kind of involved, but he probably could have maybe just kind of skirted trouble with the Empire this time if two Jedi hadn't shown up at his apartment. He seemed to be a cop just trying to do the right thing, while also being a single dad. However imperfect he was at that, before everything went down. And Riley had done absolutely nothing that should have drawn the Empire's ire. Wrong place, wrong time, great characters, and like Icarus, Brander also went out like a boss. It would be remiss not to mention Vader and the Inquisitors in the supporting cast. Marek and the Crow were a genuine threat to Maul, and they were downright scary to the non-Force using characters. The show also used the force of nature that was Vader so freaking well. He's genuinely scary, and he was never not a threat to the main cast. Which leaves us with the title character and the character who I would argue was the co-protagonist of the show. Devon drove the plot every bit as much as Maul did, and her character had more room for change and growth, culminating in her fall to the dark side. And she didn't fall easily. She knew that Maul was trying to manipulate her, and yet, in the dark times of the Empire, fall she did. Going into this, we already knew exactly where Maul was going to end up, and we also knew a lot about his past. And yet, despite the Sisyphus-like nature of Maul, he still managed to achieve some level of growth, and we still got to learn more about him. He genuinely seemed to care about the people who worked for him, but by the end of the show, they're all dead, and Maul has to build himself up yet again. Clearly this time from within Crimson Dawn, which brings us neatly into Solo. As the series rolled out, everything I learned about the show's production made me love it even more. Anyone who watched my short reactions knows it took me a minute to get used to the backgrounds, but I always thought they looked great as stills, like they were paintings, only for me to find out they actually were paintings. And then there's touches like Sam Witwer lending Maul's voice to his lightsaber. This is art. Yes, it's commercial art. Yes, it's for Disney, but it's still art. There's just layer upon layer with the stunning visuals, brilliant writing, and this feels like a good point to acknowledge the creators, which I probably should have done off the top. There's the man in the cowboy hat, Dave Filoni, lead writer Matt McConaughey, supervising director Brad Rao, Sam Witwer, who not only provided the voice of Maul, but he provided creative input to the story. There's also a host of other creatives who gave their input to the show, including Saul Ruiz, Stuart Lee, Nathaniel Villanueva, Tatiana Drury-Carvin, Amanda Rose Muenes, Julia Cooperman, Jennifer Corbett, and Christopher Yost. Once again, this is a show that completely blew me away. I can't wait for season 2. This is the Nerdy Dad, signing out.